Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Judith Silverman Hodara, founder and principal at Fortuna Admissions. I'm so glad to be here today with Karen Hamou, and we're talking about a really interesting topic, which is what happens on your interview day when you're not actually in the interview. And we'd like to discuss with you a little bit about how to manage those in-between times when you're not formally in a presentation or in a class, and how do you carry yourself, as well as what should your follow-up be. So Karen, thank you so much again for being with us. And tell me a little bit about your thoughts on what that interview day should be like for when you're not actually in a scheduled program.
So I think the interview actually just starts the second you set foot on campus, or even before that, any communication you have with an admissions committee member leading up to the interview. So from your interactions with the receptionist when you walk in, right? Or if there are other events on campus that you are invited to take advantage of, meeting other students, sitting in on a class, lunch with an admissions director, all of those you should consider to be very much a part of the interview, and dress and behave accordingly. As well as the interview is certainly not over the second you leave the interview room. There is follow-up to be done, thank you notes to write. Your behavior certainly still matters.
So I will tell you that famously at Wharton, we had a fabulous receptionist. And if people weren't, gracious to her and, kind of polite, she let us know about it. And I really appreciated that, because the truth is, the way that you treat anybody you interact with during the day is going to matter ultimately about how you become a member of the community. And I can't agree with you more. That communication beforehand, looking forward to being there, registering, and being patient. It's probably a busy day. So when you set foot on campus, everyone's nervous. But if you can kind of just keep that in mind and recognize that everybody else in the room is going through the same thing that you are. So, kind of going that extra effort to be polite and kind to others is also going to be really important. What about informal interaction, Karen, with students that you may meet during the day, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think the same goes. I mean, those are people who, if you don't treat them properly, they certainly can figure out how to channel that feedback. I think also students can be your greatest advocate, right? If they're very impressed by you, sure, they could send in a little note to admissions. It's certainly been done before. So consider that as well to be an assessment. And I think that also students are great to continue to keep in touch with. I had a client today who someone that she met on campus invited her to attend a social event at CBS in the coming weeks. So that's a great person to connect with, because they're really on the ground and they can really kind of help you throughout the process and be your advocate.
And one word to the wise is, if there are social events the evening before or the evening after your interview, you just want to keep an eye on your behavior. I know that sounds crazy, but there was always a pub night Thursday night at Wharton, and you certainly don't want to do anything that would, land you on the front page of the daily newspaper the next morning. So I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes, people are uncomfortable and it's a social situation and you may find yourself having a beer too many. But all of this can filter back, until you're in. Basically, you are kind of under a microscope, and it's important to keep that in the back of your mind as you're going through the process. I hate to sound like your mom, but that's definitely something that we recommend you keep an eye on. Karen, how about follow-up and interactions after your visit? How do you reach out? Who do you reach out to? Any tips on that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to send thank you notes. You have to send one to your interviewer for sure. Other people who you interacted with, it's also great to send a thank you note. Again, if you sat in on a class, approach the professor after and ask for their contact info and send them a thank you note. Again, students on campus, send them a follow-up. And you can also send them a follow-up later, let's say once you're admitted or if you're waitlisted, so you can continue that chain of communication with any of these contacts. Also, many of the top MBA programs do alumni interviews off campus. Right. And so that's also, of course, very important to send a thank you. And again, to see that person as a great connection within the network and as a great advocate for you. So a thank you note is not just out of protocol, it's to authentically build a relationship into the future.
So here's the $20,000 question: email or snail mail?
uh, I tend to think email unless there's a unique circumstance. Is that not what you wanted to?
No, I'm laughing. I'm so old fashioned. I still have notes that I got from students, 10 years ago, but that's just the way I'm wired. So I agree with you. I think email is very efficient. Again, make sure that it's personal, talks about something that you did that day or said that day or what you learned that day. Email is certainly fine. I really laugh about the fact that I still have those handwritten notes on correspondence cards from back when that was still kind of considered okay.
I interviewed with 4 different MBA programs when I applied 10 years ago. And for one, I sent a handwritten note at the end, actually, because it was a program I was so passionate about attending and ultimately chose a program. And I wrote a handwritten note that I sent in to my admissions committee interviewer. So I do remember that. I don't know if they do as well, but again,
they do remember that.
I think in the right circumstances, it's very nice, but I do think an email has a more immediate effect. For example,
Sure.
Columbia, the alum needs to submit their feedback. They can do it the same day, right? So if they don't see a thank you note in their inbox, they might make assumptions and not know it's coming in the snail.
It's very true. Well, I know I laugh. I am a little antiquated, but snail mail or email, always a great way to go about it, and make sure you do it. And just, end of the day, just make sure you do it and spell everybody's name correctly also. So thank you so much for being with us. It's such an interesting conversation with Karen Hamou from CBS. And I'm Judith Silverman Hodara. We're both with Fortuna, and we will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.